My name is Bob Strong. Well, I dreamed of flying from my earliest memories, and finally I cut off a broomstick to mimic a control stick of a P-51 because I was reading everything I could read about airplanes, and I would sit on a kitchen chair back from the table and fly. So I could pull back on that stick and kick hard rudder and come right in on the tail of the enemy instantly. And I had that down. So my family got tired of hearing my machine gun. I had a pretty good machine gun going. But, that was as a kid. I learned to fly in Lincoln, Nebraska at a little airport north of Lincoln named Aero Airport, and supposedly Charles Lindbergh had learned to fly from that field. And I told the guy when I got there, I said, I wanted to learn to fly the fastest way possible and the cheapest way possible. And he pointed at this 120 Cessna that was sitting out in the weeds. He said, well, there's the cheap. The speed's up to you. You can fly an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon. He said, you'll have your license soon. So we started. 3 days later, he soloed me. And a week later, I totaled his airplane for him. I was coming into land and crabbing into the gusty crosswind, and the wind stopped. You know, and so I jammed in full power, all 85 horsepower, kicked full left rudder to straighten it out with the runway. Nothing happened other than just dropped to the runway, and I hit about a 45-degree angle and bounced and came down and went through a corner post and a fence with barbed wire and a few things stringing off the plane. I couldn't let it land at that point because the field outside it beyond the runway was all eroded deep gullies, and if I went down I'd have an engine in my lap. What I didn't know, I lost part of the prop as I went through that corner post, and there's barbed wire coming off the wings along with a little fabric, and so I'm holding it, trying to get it to start flying without going in one of those chasms. I mean, trying to get it to fly, and I had to pull the power back because it was shaking so bad with part of the propeller gone. And so I'm going pretty well, and here's a ridge out ahead of me, and I got to get over that ridge. At the last minute, I pulled up, and the main gear hit the ridge like that, blew both doors open, up and back down. And I actually got above the power curve, I think, at that point, and started to fly. But the herd of horses that had been in the field decided to run right with me, and I'm right on their backs. I kept thinking there'd be blood over the windshield. And finally, I got enough power to get airborne, came around, made my first ever wheel landing, and crawled out. He's shaking his head. He said, well, that's one of the hard knocks of learning. And that's why I don't need this. And I headed for the car, and he caught me. He said, you're not going home. I said, yes, I am. And he got a couple of mechanics out of the hangar. He said, come on and help me put this guy in an airplane. I said, I won't fly it. He said, I know you won't, but I'll fly with you. So I was sort of overpowered at that point. And then he told me when we came in after flying about an hour, as I just sat like this, we came in, and he said, we'll be back tomorrow at your usual time. He said, me and the boys know where you live. We'll come make a scene in your neighborhood. But because of that old fella and his persistence, I flew for a week that way, and finally I took the controls again. And now, 8,000 plus hours later, you know, I can thank him. Angel Flight, it's put together as volunteer pilots that supply the plane and fuel and pilot to carry people that need to move from place to place, or organs. It's a charity organization for treatment or for an organ transplant or needing to get an organ there. We move organs or recipients of organs. And Angel Flight has generally set it up. There's about 5,000 planes and pilots around the country that do this. However, because I live just northwest of Minneapolis, and Rochester is south of Minneapolis, I was often the plane of choice to get an organ or a transplant person to Rochester, to Mayo Clinic. I was just about to sell the plane, believing I didn't have any business that used it, and I got a letter from Angel Flight. They said, "We understand you have a twin Comanche, and would you ever consider?" And so we prayed about it, and he said, "Well, maybe I shouldn't sell the plane yet." So I did Angel Flights for about 14 years. I flew a 5-year-old boy from Grand Forks, North Dakota to Milwaukee for a heart transplant. And his grandpa was traveling with him. I said, "Hey, Grandpa," I said, "I'm going to need Austin to help me fly the airplane." Let him sit up front. And I let him fly the airplane. I took it off autopilot. And that little 5-year-old hanging on that twin, I mean, if I could have gotten a picture, it was tremendous. I took another 26-year-old lady from that same hospital to Cedar Rapids who had a defective pancreas when she was born, so she'd had insulin shots. And she's 26 years old. I'm flying her home, and she's just giddy. She said, "I haven't had a shot for 4 days." And so there's those kind of things you get to be a part of, and it's pretty emotional. You usually get a hug or two, and my plane, if you see it up close, it says, "For Christ and His Kingdom," above the numbers. People would stand there to hand me a baggage. The baggage door's right there. And I'd watch them out of the corner of my eye and watch them read, and most of them would say, "I like that." I did it because I could and because I felt I should. I mean, I've been given the gift of flight in so many thousands of hours, and the sights you see. I won't forget the Mount Rushmore faces from 90 miles out. I won't forget the waving grain over South Dakota in the wind patterns. I won't forget one morning I took off. I love to take off before daylight, climb up through the overcast, be sitting there, and when the sun comes up, and all of a sudden, and the clouds look like meringue under me, just little fingers of, who knows, 3 or 4 feet high maybe, who knows. But I was streaking along just above them, and just for a millisecond, the sun turned them all to flame. It looked like the whole world was burning. But those are things, if I were blind today, I can enjoy those sights. Feel incredibly blessed. Even when I look up and feeling really sorry for myself, I can easily praise God that I was in the air that much. Yeah, I miss it.